Parked beside me is a Tesla Model S 75D, and I got my hands on one for about a week. So what are my overall impressions as a Tesla Model 3 driver? As I mentioned in a video earlier, I had to take my Tesla Model 3 into a Tesla service center. But I do want to mention, it had nothing to do with mechanics. It actually had to do with the paint job. But we'll go into that a little bit more detail in the following video about my overall impression and experience with the Tesla service center. But let's get to the task at hand. I, as an original Tesla Model 3 driver, got to drive a Tesla Model S 75D. This was the loaner car that they gave me. And it was the first time that I ever got behind the wheel of a Tesla Model S. I think it goes without saying that I am a Tesla fanboy. It's pretty obvious. And I have been following Tesla since the beginnings of the Tesla Model S in 2012 and thought it was an absolutely beautiful car, even when it had the infamous cone at the front end of the car. Of course, ever since then, in 2015, they did a refreshed look and it's even more stunning. And upon walking to the car at the Tesla Service Center, I was actually in a bit of amazement because I had never imagined that I would get behind the wheel of a Tesla Model S, let alone have one in my possession for about a week. And I must say, the car, yes, it is stunning. And in having conversations with people about this car while I had it, the overall impression was that it is indeed an absolutely beautiful car, and it is a head turner. Upon getting into this Tesla Model S, my overall impression was that it is a beautiful interior. Now, despite the fact that this does not have the premium upgrade, it has the cloth seats. They're still beautifully designed, and the overall dash is absolutely beautiful as well. And of course, what really stands out is that gigantic center console screen, but the other thing that's very interesting is the fact that it actually has the screen behind the steering wheel as well. And as a Tesla Model 3 driver, I've really embraced the overall simplicity. And my overall impression was that, yes, it indeed is a bit more busy. A lot more things to pay attention to when you're inside the car, from of course the two screens that are in there, to even having to manually adjust the vents. That's something of course we don't have to do in the Tesla Model 3. Another thing that really stood out were the amount of stalks on the steering wheel. You've got a total of 4. On the left side there are 3, and of course you've got the standard turn signal. It also adjusts the brightness of your lights, and you can also adjust the windshield wipers as well. There's another stalk not too far from that adjusts the enhanced autopilot, turning it on and off, how far, and then of course all the adjustments from there, how far you are from the car in front of you, and also your speed. And then one more stalk is the positioning of the steering wheel, up or down, closer or farther from you. And then on the right side of the steering wheel, you've got your standard stalk that pretty much puts you in drive, reverse, or neutral. And my overall impression of that was simply, it's too busy. Once again, as a Tesla Model 3 driver, you really begin to appreciate just how simple they've made the car. Now, I would like to talk about the center console of the Tesla Model S and compare it to that of the Model 3. There are certainly some big differences, such as the orientation. So when you look at the Tesla Model S, for example, it's got the vertical orientation. And even though it's a big, beautiful screen and has a lot of real estate, a couple of problems with that. Number one, when you're driving and you want to do something or use the menu at the bottom of the screen, you have to travel, your eye has to travel a long distance from the road to the bottom of that screen in order to get access to that menu. Another problem that is with the center console of the Tesla Model S, at least when you compare it to the Model 3, is it's actually installed in the dash. so it's a little bit farther away from you. And even though it's pointed and oriented for the driver to see better, you have to reach a lot farther to get access to that center console than, say, that of the Tesla Model 3. So again, the Model 3, what it has is, of course, that mounted on the dash, and it's a little bit closer to you, so you don't have to reach as far to get to it. And on top of that, because it does have the landscape orientation or the horizontal orientation of the center console, you don't have to look down as far as, say, the Tesla Model S. So when you're looking from the road to the actual screen itself on the Model 3, you don't have to look as far, and it's less distracting. One of the things that really does attract a lot of people to the Tesla Model 3 is the overall simplicity. And even though they did remove that screen, or the speedometer, if you will, below the steering wheel, people really got used to it pretty quickly. So I will say that driving the Model S, it was interesting to kind of go back to the traditional speedometer behind the steering wheel. But I will also say that it doesn't feel all that necessary anymore, because a lot of the information on that screen is actually redundant. For example, on the left side of the screen, there is music information. It also gives you turn-by-turn navigation directions, and it also will replace all of that information if someone has their seatbelt off. But this redundant information nonetheless, because again, you've got the music information on the center console, and you've got the turn-by-turn directions on the center console as well. Now on the right side, it's a little different, not as redundant, but you do have the energy consumption there, which you can get that information from the center console and leave it up there if you want. And it also has many other features in there as well. You can push the menu and decide what it is you want displayed there. But I will say, as a Tesla Model 3 driver, it does feel as though that display behind the steering wheel doesn't seem to be quite as necessary as I once thought. All right, let's get to the overall experience of driving this bad boy right here. And I will say this off the bat, this thing is faster than my Tesla Model 3. This thing goes from 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds. That's a little over a second faster than my Tesla Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive. Am I disappointed in my Model 3? Absolutely not. But I did notice a big difference when I step on that accelerator and get going. My son even said, without a doubt, it is faster than our Model 3. And of course, you've got all of the other perks associated with an electric car, and of course a Tesla in general, and that is that instant gratification as you step on the accelerator. Now, when you compare the Tesla Model S and the Tesla Model 3 and just how sporty they are, yeah, I think you can safely say that the Model 3 is sportier. However, that's not to say that the Tesla Model S isn't sporty, because it is. As I mentioned earlier, you've got that instant gratification when you step on the accelerator. But number two, even around the corners, it does quite well. Does it do as well as that of the Tesla Model 3? No, but it still is very sporty around the corners. Now, one of the things the Tesla Model S has that the Tesla Model 3 doesn't is air suspension. And of course, you can adjust the height of it, how low you want it or how high you want it. You can't do that with the Model 3. But with that air suspension, what it does is it makes the ride much more smooth and a much more comfortable ride at that. So when you hit different bumps, you don't feel them as much. So for example, with the Tesla Model 3, you don't have that air suspension. And of course, that also does help to make it a little bit more sporty around those corners. But it also makes the ride a little less uncomfortable, a little less comfortable, that is, because you can feel those bumps a lot more than that of, say, the Tesla Model S. Now, another thing I was concerned about is the fact that this is a bigger car than the Model 3, but it definitely doesn't feel that much larger. You can feel the weight when you're driving the car. You can feel the amount of energy it takes, more energy that is, to get the car going, but it definitely in no shape or form feels sluggish because of that. But it's that overall size of the car that gives you that more luxurious feel. And on top of that, you've got more cargo space, making it better for those long road trips. But overall, driving this car, again, is everything you'd expect out of a Tesla, making it one of the most enjoyable rides you can get. So then it begs the question, if you were to choose between a Model S or a Model 3, which would it be? Well, first and foremost, I have to say, if we were taking money and finances off the table and didn't have to worry about how much it costs, then I would choose a Tesla Model S. Now there's a reason for that, and that's because, number one, it's a slightly bigger car. And it also has a much more comfortable, more smooth ride. And that is going to make it much more comfortable for those long road trips. Because with the added space, bringing the family, they have more space in the car. There's also more cargo space as well. But does that mean I regret buying the Tesla Model 3? Absolutely not. Number one, I absolutely love the car. It too is a very comfortable ride, just not as smooth and luxurious as the Tesla Model S. But I do love taking on long road trips, and I have absolutely no regrets buying the Tesla Model 3. And again, the Tesla Model 3, much more affordable than that of this car that I'm standing next to right here. So, my overall suggestion is this. If you can afford a Tesla Model S and you want a sporty yet more luxurious, comfortable ride for those long road trips, and you take a lot of road trips with your family, this is the car for you. However, if you're into sports cars and want a more sporty, more nimble ride, then the Tesla Model 3 is for you. And again, it all depends on what you can afford, but both cars are absolutely wonderful in their own right. The Tesla Model S and of course the Tesla Model 3. Okay, so a part of my review, I thought it might be a good opportunity to see what other people think in the family, such as my wife, who has driven the Model 3. In fact, the only Tesla she's driven is a Model 3. And so now she's behind the wheel of this Model S as we're going back to Sacramento to pick up the Model 3. And I thought it'd be nice to maybe get her input on what she thinks the driving differences between the two. So first and foremost, yeah, here is, I guess you would call her frugal Tesla wife. I don't know what you'd call her, but this is my wife, and she is driving the Tesla Model S for the first time. And so just wanted to get her first overall initial thoughts of the car. So what do you think?
Well, I just had a lot of fun racing another car. So this one has been pretty exciting, but mainly because I was winning racing a Honda Accord.
It was actually, I think it was a Lexus.
Was it a Lexus?
Yeah, it was a Lexus,
Okay.
and it was definitely a sport, it's kind of souped up Lexus. It'd been fun to maybe get on video, but I don't know if we need to put that on YouTube. But yeah, he was definitely trying to. It was no competition, right? I mean,
No, we got a.
wait, we'll have to bleep that out because yeah, that's not good. But okay, so we did get up to a pretty good speed, which we're doing right now. So, but you know, you had the fun. Aside from that, the overall experience driving it now, and what are your thoughts?
It's nice, it's comfortable. I like the armrest. It gives you just nice support when you're driving.
So not necessarily the armrest itself, but just the seat, so your arm can kind of rest on the seat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it feels supported, and you know, like I've got a good grip on it. So it was effortless to get up to a quick speed, to go 0 to 60 pretty quickly, and feeling like I have good control.
Now, when you compare it to driving the Model 3, how is it different?
I think the other one is more of feels like a race car compared to this. This is more of a nice family car. Good support. I feel like I can have good up and go. But it definitely it doesn't feel as sporty.
Okay.
I guess would be the...
Interesting. All right. If you had to choose, now, because I want to do another follow-up video when we're going back home in the Model 3, and you can kind of get a better sense kind of after driving this, but if you had to have a choice, you know, the cost of the car really not part of the decision. If you could choose between the two, which one do you think at this point you would prefer?
Well, I like the feel of the other one. So right now, I'm leaning towards the 3.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. Good. All right. Any other final thoughts about the car?
They're both a lot of fun.
Yes, that's Tesla for you. Okay, we are back. Now, of course, we are driving back home from Sacramento. We spent the day there, you know, did some shopping, had dinner, so that's why you can see a lot of darkness here. But, you know, we wanted to come back because kind of get my wife's perspective on the Model S compared to the Model 3. And you made a couple of observations. I remember when we got in this car initially. Of course, I was driving, but nonetheless, you had some initial thoughts and when we got into the car. So what were those?
That this one just feels kind of tighter, zippier, sportier. If it's just me zipping around town, I think this is a fun car. The other one does seem a little more roomy if we have the kids and taking a long trip. It seemed like it had a little more room.
So now we're talking about the roominess too. So I mean, that's kind of the one thing you did notice. It is a little bit, obviously the Model S is bigger. What about the overall feel of the ride? Would you say that you can feel the bumps more? It's a little more bumpy ride, not as comfortable as the Model S?
Yes, that's fair. Yeah, the other one is a little more, just a little bigger, a little heavier.
A little plush, a little more plush.
Yeah.
Now, what about the monitoring? Remember we were talking about how do you like the monitor in the other one better?
I do kind of like the other view a little bit better. I like how this is more open and sleek. But the other one, I like the longer look.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of like it's the advantages and disadvantages. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about here. Is that I'm going to mention this in kind of later in the review, that it just depends on your personal style, what you want. Do you want something that's going to be more comfortable, a more smooth ride? You're going to get that with the Model S, and this is going to be a tighter. You're going to feel the bumps more type of ride in the Model 3. So they both have their advantages and disadvantages. So again, regrets? Absolutely not. I absolutely love this car, and I'm glad to have it back. Are you glad to have it back?
Yes. Glad to have it back.
All right, awesome. Well, we will continue on with the review. Thanks for watching. So there you have it. As a Tesla Model 3 driver, there are my overall impressions of a Tesla Model S 75D. I think it's safe to say that I think this is a fantastic car, but on top of that, I also think the Tesla Model 3 is a fantastic car as well. Well, if you like this video, be sure to give it a like or a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my videos, you can subscribe to my channel anytime. And if you are thinking about buying a Tesla at all, be sure to use my referral code. At this point, they're still giving away 6 months of free supercharging on this Tesla supercharging network. So once again, thank you all for watching, and until my next video, stay positively charged.